I would like to express my deepest gratitude and appreciation to all of you who worked so many hours, months, years, and yes, decades to organize this conference. Many thanks to all of you also who are in attendance. It is not easy to get off work and leave family, especially in these economic times. The dedication of the planners and the attendees to the principles taught by Dr. Glasser is evident. And the theme of what my remarks are continuing the legacy of Dr. Glasser. I'd like to ask you to do something. I'd like to ask you to turn to the person next to you and, in complete silence, smile at that person. Okay, there's a reason we're asking you that, which will become evident after a while. I wish to recognize the Glasser of Korea. Extend special appreciation and gratitude to Professor Rose Kim for her unswerving commitment to choice theory, reality therapy, and its many applications, including the quality school beyond high school. Professor. She demonstrates a relentless desire and efficacious choice to preserve and extend the legacy of Dr. Glasser. Many thanks to you, Dr. Rose, for organizing this conference. Dr. Kim has committed herself to making choice theory and reality therapy a Korean system, as others have done throughout Asia. Saki Kakatani and his team in Japan, a wide range of people in Singapore. It is now becoming a Malaysian system, and it has been an Australian system and a New Zealand system, and I probably omitted a few places. Special thanks also are due to Charlie Stur, whom we all miss, Rose's husband, for his everlasting support for choice theory and reality therapy. Charlie, thank you. We will see you again. I'm only mentioning Asia because of the location of this conference. Choice theory and reality therapy are now localized systems rather than just ideas that have washed up on the shoulder. Now I would like to thank you for the opportunity and the unique honor given to me of presenting this Keystone Address at the first international meeting of the William Glasser International to be held in Asia. I believe I can say that we are all thrilled to have delegates from so many countries, and I believe from every continent except Antarctica. We look forward to the day when we will have delegates from every continent on planet Earth and not have to say except. It's kind of cold down there. The theme of this address is continuing the growth and the legacy of the William Glasser person. Topics illustrate this effort. I'd like you to look at that slide and tell me what you see. A clown, right? A clown. Reality. Now, I'd like to change the slide just a little bit. Now do you see the entire surface? For example, do you see the tent? You see a dog with a ball on his nose, someone twirling in both hands, someone with a balloon on the left, horses jumping over barriers up there, and elephants jumping over. Thank you. And elephants walking along over here. In other words, if you change something in your life, you will change a lot. And I'm hoping that as we learn choice theory and reality therapy, we see not just the clown when we look at the world around us, but we see the entire circus. We will see more than what we saw. Who's that? Screensaver. I come from a country far away, as you know. It's about 240 years old. It's actually an old country in terms of the ages. And some people think that we have never had a king. Well, actually we have. And I'd like to play a little message from him. This is King Elvis. It's now or never. always lives. I hope you experienced a short burst of joy during that moment. There is a reason for playing that. A short burst of joy. In her book, The Myths of Happiness, Sonia Lyubomirsky states that short bursts of gladness are not trivial. It is the frequency, not the intensity, that counts. I'd like to read that again. It is the frequency, not the intensity, that counts. And she adds, most of us seem not to know this. Now, to illustrate a short burst of joy that's longer than an instant, I would like the 8 or 10 volunteers that I asked to come up on the stage for just a moment. And we're going to do an experiment. Would you come forward, please? We're going to do this at the end, but we're going to do it like that. Come on, don't be shy, everybody. 10 people. Just come on up. For a moment on your physiology during that time. Was it a little different? What were you feeling during that time? What were you thinking? I noticed a lot of people smiling and starting actually to laugh out loud. We wondered, what is this guy? I always thought he was crazy, now I know he is. Well, that's possible, but the point is that we can do something to feel good and to feel happy. There's plenty of research that shows when they show a movie, a comedy in a theater, it gets funnier and it gets better ratings than when people watch it alone. In other words, there's a contagion, there is a connection that we can make through humor. One of the great comedians of the world said, Victoria Marion said, the shortest distance between two people is a laugh. Well, this won't be all laughs in the next few minutes, but there will be, of course, serious moments too. But I just wanted to illustrate that happiness can increase with short bursts of joy, even if it's a bit artificial. I would like to emphasize that in this talk I will make the assumption that you already know the basics of choice theory, needs and wants and behaviors, perceptions, etc., as well as the basic procedures of reality therapy and how they are summarized in 4 letters of the English alphabet. I don't want to discuss what you already know. However, I believe that preserving Dr. Glasser's legacy does not mean that we drive our behavioral car into the future with our eyes exclusively glued on the rearview mirror. If we are to honor Dr. Glasser appropriately, we need to understand the width of what he taught, but also the depth. We need to understand all of this, and what he taught will continue to have added meaning and added applications as we move down through history. In her book, The How of Happiness, Sonia Lewinsky states, we have to stretch our skills or find novel opportunities to use them. Stretch our skills. In other words, extend what we already know and what we have practiced. I don't know about anyone in here, but I know that my practice of reality therapy is vastly different than the reality therapy I practiced years ago. It's still reality therapy. I hope it's still better. This is wonderful because it means that we are constantly striving, growing, learning, and becoming more competent, expert, and complex, she says. The happiness Martin Seligman spoke about and was sketched just before derives from four basic elements: positive emotion, relationships, meaning in life, and accomplishments. Ben Shahar suggests that we cultivate three personal habits: be with people we care about, exercise, we are not meant to be sedentary, he says, and meditate, which helps us develop resilience to negative emotions. I'd like now to describe a metaphor, perhaps a parable, an analogy, a figure of speech. This is not hypnosis and it is not guided imagery. But I would like you to meditate on a story that I will tell. Please sit with both feet flat on the floor. And with your hands in your lap. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe deeply, exhaling slowly. Now breathe in a second breath and exhale slowly. Now repeat this once again. Be aware of your posture in the chair. Your feet, your legs, your torso, your arms, your neck, and your head. Keep your eyes closed. And now I would like to ask you to be aware of your own awareness. Sit quietly and relax your muscles. So relaxing your muscles, you pause your sympathetic nervous system and allow your parasympathetic nervous system to take over, illustrating that we do have some direct control of our physiology. Now just listen to my voice as I tell a little story. Many years ago, there was a kingdom in Asia, ruled by a king and queen. They ruled with justice and benevolence. Their subjects loved them because they were always fair and reasonable. They cared very much about their kingdom. They had 3 children. When the children were young, the king and queen decided they wanted the children to grow up wise and of sound judgment. So they asked their advisors to come together, their counselors, their consultants. They gave them the following assignments. We want you to go out in the world and gather all the wisdom of the world in one document and bring it back to us so that we can give it to our children. And so the advisors traveled throughout the world and talked to learned individuals. They researched the libraries far and wide, and after a few years they returned to the king and queen and presented them with a beautiful leather-bound book with gold edges. They said, Your Highnesses, we have summarized the wisdom of the world into this beautiful book. The king and queen accepted this treasure and in turn presented it to their children with the words, Learn everything contained in this book. Then they once again turned to their advisors and commissioned them. Go out in the world and return with all the wisdom of the world summarized in one chapter. The advisors groaned, but they knew their king and queen were very wise, and they were determined to fulfill their assignment. After consulting with other wise people around the world and studying the books contained in the libraries of every country, and after a time had passed, they returned to the kingdom and presented the king and queen with a chapter summarizing the wisdom of the world. They asked if they could rest a while because they knew they would receive yet another assignment. The king and queen granted their request and presented the chapter to their children, saying, memorize these words of wisdom. And before long, they called their advisors together again and said, we now want you to go out into the world and come back with the wisdom of the world summarized in one sentence. The advisors knew that this would be a difficult journey. Their hair was turning white, their eyesight was failing. Their shoulders were stooped from long years of study. But they were happy to fulfill their responsibilities to the king and queen. They traveled far and wide and returned to the kingdom and asked for an audience with the king and queen. The king and queen were eager to hear how their advisors fulfilled their assignment. They summoned them and said, please be seated in these comfortable chairs. We know you have aged and we know your health is fragile, but you have returned to us with the wisdom of the world summarized. The advisors said to the king and queen, Your Highnesses, we were not able to summarize the wisdom of the world in one sentence, but we have summarized it in 4 sentences. The king and queen responded and said, we are so pleased with your hard work, your diligence, and your wisdom. Tell us the 4 sentences. The advisor said, the first sentence is, there is no such thing as a free lunch. The king and queen looked at each other and nodded in approval. The second sentence is, this too shall pass. The king and queen pondered at this statement and said to each other, this principle is filled with wisdom. What is the third sentence? No one ever drowned in sweat. The king and queen looked at each other and smiled and said, we will teach this to everyone. Tell us the 4th sentence. The 4th sentence is count your blessings, not your afflictions. The king and queen spent the full day in silence considering this last statement. They then responded to their advisors, these are indeed wise principles to live by. We will teach them to the children and ask them to teach them to the entire kingdom. But please provide us with a brief elaboration on each of them. The advisors said, there's no such thing as a free lunch means that someone somewhere in some way is going to pay. The second saying, this too shall pass, means that your children are advised to see the world around them as temporary. There are times when viewing from a high level of perception is appropriate, and there are times when viewing from a low level is appropriate. They will be wise if they keep in mind that no matter what the current crisis is, it will pass. We only have certainty and security when we look back on our history. In fact, even the good times will pass. We are not meant to live on this earth permanently. They add also, because Dr. Glasser stressed the singular importance of relationships, there could be a middle way to look at things where we perceive relationships before putting a value on them. The third sentence summarizing the wisdom of the world, no one ever drowned in sweat, is another way of saying that your children should value hard work and achievement. They will need to pursue relentlessly the satisfaction of their inner motivation for achievement and inner control. Their need for fun or enjoyment, their need for freedom and making choices, and most importantly, their need for satisfying relationships with other people. They will also need to teach this to their subjects. The fourth admonition in the wisdom of the world is count your blessings, not your afflictions. This means that your children and each member of the kingdom at each day of their lives stand in a fork in the road. They have a choice. They can travel in either direction. One is characterized by the relentless recital of what's wrong with the world around them, what's lacking in themselves, and how their relationships are dysfunctional. The other pathway is the wiser one. On this path, they pursue happy and healthy relationships, activities, creativity, accomplishments, wisdom, and many other uplifting qualities. They search for solutions. They include other people as appropriate. They see the world as filled with opportunities. Their motto is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. But their work is neither drudgery nor aimless. They look for ways to focus their energy on goals that are attainable and that contribute to the well-being of others. In this effort, they find satisfaction. They find life in relationships. And they harbor within their hearts the belief that their lives are worthwhile, that the fruits of their labor endure, and are even pleasing to the Almighty. Oh yes, there was another sentence, the fifth one. They said, it's all about relationships. Human love and belonging, human connectedness, acquaintanceship, affiliation, friendliness, and intimacy. I'm going to count backwards now. I'd like you to open your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes, please, and look around the room. I'd like you now to turn to the person next to you, and for just about a minute, talk about the parable we just heard. There's no need to draw practical conclusions from this unless you want to. There's no need to apply the lessons unless that is your preference. There's no need to define the implications of the story unless that is your preference. It is merely intended to create an atmosphere for relaxing thinking and feeling. Just allow your mind to think about this metaphor. Let it rest in your creative behavioral system. I suggest when it surfaces again, write down your thoughts. A very helpful idea may come to you in the middle of the night. Write it down. Anyway, once again, please just sit and relax your muscles. And now turn to the person next to you and talk about that for about 2 minutes. me. Why is everyone has their back turned? This is the first certification week held in Korea. And the first person who sees the misprint gets a prize. The first person whose hand I see. I saw your hand right here. What's the misprint? It was 1993, not 1933. Come forward. I taught at for 32 years, Xavier University. Something I'll never find something else. All right, let's talk about something a little more practical, a little more usable. I have another version. Okay. All right. The question is, can we increase communication in publications regarding the contributions of the many cultures in which reality therapy is taught? It began as a westernized system, but is now taught around the world, as is evidenced by the large number of people attending this conference. There are certainly differences in the manner of communication between East and West, as you heard so eloquently described in the previous discussion. We need to discuss these differences and examine how they enrich our teaching and practice. Please translate some of the research conducted in Asia and publish it in Western journals. That's a kind of ethnocentric statement. But one of our strategies should be to gain more exposure around the world in various journals, publishing applications that illustrate the many cultural nuances of choice theory and reality therapy will provide added credibility to our work. And will also increase the scholarly basis that some of us have worked so hard to achieve. Dr. Tom Parrish has given a countless number of hours and months and years in publishing the International Journal of Choice Theory and Reality Therapy. We're forever grateful to your work, Tom. Where is he? I think he's still in Wichita, Kansas. Okay. We're also indebted to Larry Lidback, who is now deceased, who founded the journal in 1981. I traveled to many conferences, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Our credibility increases when I can tell people that we have an international journal as well as an international conference. We have an international board. We have a theory. We have a practice. We have any number of publications. And all of this serves to increase our credibility and to extend and honor the legacy of William Gladstone. I hope there are plans for more journals. So please let me know and inform all of us about this important fact so that our teaching can be more extensive, more detailed, and we can inform our students that we have a first-class worldwide organization. My mission is to contribute to this effort, including we have written 34 chapters in textbooks and other things. I think I'm bragging about that, and you're right. Please. Well, that's how I just want to say that it is possible to do these things. Related to the topic of increasing credibility and scholarly recognition, I would like to once again recognize Professor Kim, who has facilitated over 500 master theses and doctoral dissertations on reality therapy. This kind of leadership is virtually unknown in the helping professions. She co-authored an article in the International Journal of Choice Theory, which was edited by Jeff Tarango. This journal no longer exists, but it has been replaced with the current online journal edited by Tom Parrish. The title of her article is A Meta-Analysis of Reality Therapy and Choice Theory, Group Programs for Self-Esteem and Locus of Control in Korea. How about that? This article is often referenced in writings by many authors of textbooks and other books, trade books. Janet Morgan deserves our collective gratitude for the work she is doing in sharing the Institute Committee on Research. She and Willa Stevens have done superb work. In fact, Janet will have an announcement about this at the end of this lecture as well. She is determined to demonstrate to the professional world that reality therapy is evidence-based. There will be several presentations during this conference on research and on the absolute necessity to continue to provide evidence of the efficacy of reality therapy and its theoretical-based choice theory. We are well advised to keep in mind the words of Bill and Darlene Glasser that the two are linked inseparably. Choice theory is the train track, as they said, and reality therapy is the train. There's an author, Heinz Kohl, who once remarked that without theory, we see nothing. We see the ground on the surface. But with theory alone, we are closed to new experience. So we need both. Okay. My wife just reminded me for a few slides. There's the first edition of the journal. Just you can't see all these, but you understand that there is such documentation. Okay. And the current journal usually has this cover on it. One of the major research efforts on an organizational basis was the effort of the Glasser Scholars Program. It was a success. They continue to write, they continue to publish ideas. Thank you. These are a group of university professors. It's an open, competitive program. Finished the program and are now publishing. And Willa Stevens is going to host at our university the American in a conference next year in Raleigh, North Carolina. So they are hard working. Of equal importance in the ongoing publication of research studies is that there are many approaches to this topic. And I want to just use a simple example from Michio Kaku in his book, The Future of Physics. He describes research that shows that children who were able to refrain from immediate gratification held out for longer rewards, he calls them, consistently scored higher on every measure of future success. Now that's a very specific study. So could we study something like that? The specifics of delaying gratification. We have research justifying quality school, but what about specific problems that people have? I'd like to discuss for a few minutes, and we don't have much time, but we have a few minutes. We will have, by the way, panel discussion after this, and that's when we will have questions and comments, etc. I'd like to discuss the concept of total behavior, both from a counseling point of view, and if time, from a systemic or organizational point of view. The context of these 2 points is total behavior. I am often asked about the relationship between dealing with present behavior and its connection with past behavior. For example, How does reality therapy allow for the discussion of past trauma and its impact on current thinking, feeling, and physiology? In order to illustrate this, I've asked my wife to be a client for a few minutes. This is a client named Joe, who is a veteran of the war. And Joe comes home and is referring to this counselor, this reality therapist, because Joe has demonstrated a countless number of problems. We're just going to do this for a minute or so. Joe, you came in here, what's going on?
Well, I was a young man who ended up far away in the war. I felt compelled to protect my country, my family, live out the ideals. When I got there, I lost buddies. I saw atrocious things. I wondered why I was there. And now that I'm home, it's still going on. I'm still at war. Although I'm in one piece, my friends are dead or maimed.
Okay, well now, Joe, I want to explain something. We're not going to talk about the past because there's a principle that we subscribe to that you cannot control the past. So we're going to talk about your current relationships.
I don't understand that.
Well, who in your life is important to what's going on with that relationship?
My dead buddies.
Okay, all right. That's not very good. Okay, now Joe comes in. Same scenario. Joe comes in. Joe, what's going on in your life?
I was a young man. I was in the war. I saw terrible things. My gut wrenches. My heart sad. My head pounds. I can't get over all of this. My friends, I saw them blown up. I saw trucks explode, grenades, blood, sorrow, loss.
Okay, this is still on your mind.
Very much on my mind.
At some point, we might talk about this in great detail when you want to, but I'd like to ask you some other questions, if it's okay.
Okay.
Talk a little about how this has affected you physiologically.
I'm tense, I'm tight, I'm upset. I need liquor to help me get by.
Okay. And your wife says anything
My
about
wife
drinking?
is so upset with me. I mean, we were wonderful before. Now we're on edge. I don't like what she says, and I let her know it.
Okay, what about the feelings that you have about all this?
The feelings are so mixed and turmoil and rumbling and rumbling. It's a sound in my head. It's a feeling all over of deep darkness.
Darkness, okay. We'll come back to that. And what thoughts go through your head about this experience? As you sit here now, what thoughts go through your head?
About the experience with us here.
No, about the war.
It's still here.
So
In
you
my
think
head,
about
I'm fighting it now here.
Okay. All right. What I'd like you to do is, as you sit here, would you be willing to just do a couple of things that are not too hard to do? So, all right. Would you just kind of sit there and take a deep breath through through your nose, and let your stomach extend. And now breathe out and blow as if you're blowing out a birthday cake. Now we do this 4 or 5 times. And I want to ask you, Joe, how do you feel right at this moment? Have you ever done that?
Reminds me of when I was a child and had a birthday cake. My friends blowing out the candles.
So it reminds you of happy days.
Yes.
Would you like to have some of those happy days back?
Very, very much.
Okay. I believe that can happen.
I hope so.
And I just taught you something you can do when you're feeling upset.
Yes.
Okay, let's stop right here. Did you do a good job? Okay, well, obviously that's a very brief example of one way that I'm suggesting is better than the other way. Namely, the second way is better than the first. Because if we brush aside what's on the person's mind and explain a true choice theory concept, that we cannot control the past, if we are rigid about that, what happens is we lose the person and they think they're going to solve the problem by talking about it. And I base this on William Glasser's video Edna. Anybody familiar with Edna? Yeah, it's a classic. And if you listen carefully to what he says, I'll listen to Edna complain about her situation as long as she wants to complain. Why? And he says this almost parenthetically, because that's how she thinks she will solve the problem. So I suggest, in dealing with total behavior, the total behavior of this veteran, 3 out of 4 are present. Okay? They're not past. They are very present. I talked like this to Ken Larson, who died. He was surveying, trying to get some ideas about this, dealing with trauma, and he liked what I just said, that the past is not really past. Okay? Let's get a few things here. The great American writer William Faulkner said, the past is never dead. In fact, it is not even past. So, if we think of the thinking, the act, the feeling, and the action as current, it's true. That behavior, that action behavior is past experience. There are new action behaviors that are accompanying the thinking, the feeling, and the physiology, which we didn't even talk about there, or which we would talk about. Okay. We carry this with us, as Glasser has frequently said. We carry our past with us. But it need not interfere with our lives. That's the point. It interferes with Joe's life, but it need not interfere with our lives. Let me give you an example. Dr. Stephen Foreman, who leads the Stem Cell Transplantation Institute at the City of Hope, tells a story I would like to share with you. He states the following in a newspaper article entitled, "No, you don't need closure." He says, a few months ago I ran into a woman who many years ago, at a very young age, and early in her marriage, lost her husband to cancer. Since then, she had moved away, met another man whom she adored, married him, and had a family. Together they raised their children. She had built a successful career. Seemingly, she had found closure for the tragedy of her early life. As we finished talking, she began to walk away. She turned around, and with eyes full of tears, said, "I think of him almost every day." We all know that Dr. Glasser lives in our hearts and minds. He's gone now. He lives in our feelings, he lives in our emotions, and he continues to influence our behavior. Why? Because the past is never dead. It is with us always. This story illustrates that we carry within us a suitcase of behaviors. These behaviors constitute our experience and our experiences. When we deal with people in a counseling and an educational setting, in schools and management, we need to respect this. Not give the impression that the past is unimportant or unworthy of our discussion, because you cannot control the past. As true as that statement is, it's a choice theory statement, and it can be used as a bludgeon for clobbering the person, the client, with the result that we, the helpers, become part of the problem and disrespect them by minimizing their current pain and communicating that we don't believe their current suffering is important or meaningful to them. We need reality therapy procedures to deliver this choice theory principle in an artful and empathic way. I refer you to Edna. Sound like a bell? Okay. I'd like to close with a statement that I'd like to close all trainings with this idea. That as counselors and teachers and educators and consultants, you and I have chosen one of the most noble professions the world has ever seen. And not only do we influence the Joes of this world, but we will influence Joe's project. We will influence his children and his children's children. Because what we do impacts this person, who then impacts another person. Okay, you heard Rose talk about this earlier, that no influence is too small. And when we do that, our influence cascades down through history. And we, the second point, we are the center of a kind of conspiracy. A conspiracy of the forces of nature that put us in this position of studying choice theory and reality therapy. And how lucky we are. It's a positive conspiracy focusing on each of us in this room. And it means that we are special in that sense that we can influence and impact people in a unique sort of way. It is a calling. It is a vocation. It is something that we do that has been handed to us. We didn't ask for it very much, but it has been handed to us, and we now need to pass it on to other people, and to pass it on by way of counseling people and teaching them and influencing them by treating them humanely, by treating them fairly, and by treating them justly. So, thank you very much for your patience, and I hope you have a wonderful conference, and I'd like you to turn to that person next to you. Once again, turn to the person, and smile again, and laugh. I believe we take a break at this point. How long do we take a break?
Thank you, Dr. Wubbolding. And